So there are 1,000 YouTube videos out there talking about how to build a home lab and what home labs to build, right? And the common home lab I'm seeing that everyone talks about is to either A, create a Plex Jellyfin media server, or B, host your own NAS, whether it be through old computers, old laptops, just self-sustained network storage, in which both ideas I think are fantastic. The problem is that these are kind of overstated, so I have a couple of ideas of home labs that you can build, and then I'll tell you why you should. On top of the media server and the NAS, in my opinion, you're better off just buying yourself a NAS for a couple $100 than spending the several hours trying to create a janky one across 3 different laptops. It's cool in theory, it's janky to do in practice. Bitwarden allows you to self-host itself, and Bitwarden is a password manager. I think that's a really good start into self-hosting something, especially with how many platforms that we interface with on a day-to-day basis that is very account-based, right? I guess Pi-hole is a really common idea. Despite this one being common, it's not a bad idea. A network-wide ad blocker is very powerful, and it's not perfect. It will take some tweaking. There are tons of videos out there on how to make it. I personally run it on my home network. It is really good. In my opinion, it's a must-have with how insane ads are actually getting, especially on YouTube, by the way. Have you guys noticed YouTube ads are getting pretty atrocious? The amount of mid-rolls that are going through YouTube videos is absolutely stupid. If you already work in IT or tech and you want to kind of pad out your resume, that is the strongest case, in my opinion, as to building a home lab outside of your personal practical reasons. So anything from a web server, self-hosting an Active Directory server, and emulating a bunch of VMs as users and groups, and then modifying their permissions across different files and folders and drives on your own network, as well as kind of changing their passwords and witnessing your own account lockouts. A minor challenge if you're completely new to AD, that kind of thing is really cool to do. You can use things like VMware, Proxmox, anything like that should do the trick. I think that's really cool, and that would actually add for a really good resume little entry there. If you're lucky enough, like me, to work at an MSP that gets a lot of hardware due to recycling, I have a Fortinet firewall, and that's been really awesome to just tinker around with. I gave it a static IP on my network, and whenever I feel like it, I can remote onto it and tweak a lot of the configs. A firewall is pretty insane as to what you can do. One of the goofiest ideas I had with it is that this firewall in particular allows me to set up a captive portal. A captive portal is pretty much the web page that you get when you connect to, say, a hotel Wi-Fi, and they force you to sign up with your email. That's what a captive portal is. And you can set that in your home network, and that allows you to have some fun because the captive portal can point to any web page, even if it's locally on your network. So in theory, you can host your own web page, and it can be a fat dude eating tacos. Boom. If someone wants to connect to your Wi-Fi, they are slammed right in the face. A massive dude just on the toilet eating tacos. Like you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. Hey man, yeah, let me get your Wi-Fi password. Oh yeah, it's here's my Wi-Fi 123. Okay. Yo, why do I see it? Hey man, why do I see a fat guy eating tacos all of a sudden? I don't understand. What's going on here? That's funny. And you can do that kind of thing as part of your home lab. As goofy as it is, your limits are your imagination. You can set a lot of parameters and stuff on specific devices on your home network. That can be a lot of fun if you happen to have a firewall that's just laying around at work that you can grab and take home. I'm lucky enough to do that. If you already work in a company that lets you do that, I highly recommend, because on top of all of that, you just get to familiarize yourself with the UI of a firewall, which is something that I work in pretty frequently. So why should you invest the time to build a home lab, especially if you actually happen to not be a techie person? Well, number one, it's super dope. It's just cool. It's just cool to say that you have built something that you haven't built before. The second thing is something I already said, which is it is a superb resume pattern. If you're in the position where you're in between jobs or you're trying to find a job, especially if you're entry level, home projects are awesome. And the more you flesh them out, the better it looks. And even better if you document it. If you have your own website or even your own GitHub. A GitHub is a fantastic place to just host walls of text. It's not something that you have to spend a few bucks a month on to host a web page for. You just create an account on GitHub, create a new repo, and just paste your documentation there. And you can make it public, you can make it private, that's entirely up to you. So, resume pattern, number 2. Number 3, It's privacy focused. Any service that you create in your own home is restricted to your own home, to your own network. It does not require any outside connection to the World Wide Web. It's restricted under your eyes and your eyes only, under your own network. And the more control you have, the more privacy you have. And that kind of ties into my fourth point. Not only is it private environment, it's a controlled environment. You control literally everything that comes in and that comes out of not just your home lab, but your home network. I find that it's really underrated that you have full control over networked devices in your own home. Nowadays, we have so many smart home devices. You can control your home in very wild levels, from temperature to various appliances like your fridge, your dishwasher, your laundry machines, not to mention computers, cameras. Home cameras, you can do a lot of fun stuff with home cameras. So some of the home labs I've done, I have my own NAS. At the moment, I am currently just hosting a lot of my photos and videos on from my previous phones. It served as a really nice just storage bank as it's intended. I have a Raspberry Pi. Actually, I have it in this little case right here. I have it in a Labis case here. It's a bit dusty. This is pretty cool. I have had a lot of fun with this guy and I will continue to do so. I run Pi-hole off of him very consistently and it works. It just works and it's awesome. Probably my most in-depth home lab was whenever I followed a video created by Grant Collins. To this day, he's one of my go-to cybersecurity creators. He's realistic and he's mature enough to talk about his journey in cyber and what it took for him to get into cyber, as well as his current experience. He's recently starting to put out a lot more resources about how to create home labs, how to build a resume. So a couple of years back, he created a video on how to create a cybersecurity home lab. And what it essentially is, it uses Docker on a Raspberry Pi, and you create 3 containers: a basic web server, a Kali Linux machine, which essentially emulates an attacker, a malicious actor. The entire premise of that was to emulate an attacker through a reverse proxy to actually command and control the Nginx server. Something else I did while in the cybersecurity sphere of things, I spun up an Azure VM. It turns out, I believe you have a set amount of credits, which for Microsoft is, I believe, just how much time you use in Azure VM. I opened up the port that allows you to accept, or rather listen to, every RDP request that comes into your machine. And then I use PowerShell to parse Windows Event Viewer logs and then forward to an API. And that API talked to Azure. And I set up a thing where Azure would show you these custom logs so you could actually see RDP requests from a bunch of areas on a geographical map. And I was getting a lot of requests from China, from India, from Poland. It was very obviously malicious bot RDP requests to connect to your machine, but that was the point. The point was to make it vulnerable enough so we could see real-world geographical map populate, and that was really cool to me. I still have a bunch of things I want to do in terms of both practical use in my own home and in the cybersecurity sphere, as I'm still trying to get into that field. I work in IT and service desk at the moment, and I've learned a lot being in this position, and these home labs just reinforce that learning that I've gained over the past year. So if this gave you any inspiration, I did my job. All right, thanks for watching. Like, sub, comment if you have any home labs that you've built that you're proud of. I'm curious what you've done. I know that I'm always looking for some inspiration there myself. In the meantime, hope you guys have a great day. Peace.